Breda, good morning.
Good morning, Neil.
What was your text earlier on saying that you got, or your family did, was it you? You're an African grey parrot from Eddie's father, is it?
I did, Neil. I got an African grey parrot from Eddie's father, a lovely man, and his mother, a lovely woman.
Name?
The name was my son's fault, right? My son is 32 since January, and Taxi is the parrot's name, and he's 32 since August.
Is the parrot still alive?
He's still alive. Yeah, hale and hearty. But my son was 1.5, and he was a very good speaker when I got Taxi, and Taxi was 1. And I was coming home with my daughter, and we were talking about names, what do we call him, this and that and the other, and he started saying Taxi. My son thought his name was Alex Taxi. I don't know where he got that idea, but he thought his name was Alex Taxi. So he was saying for us to call the bird Taxi. And we were saying, no, that's a silly name. You can't call the bird Taxi. And he was crying. He was crying, he was bawling, crying because we wouldn't call the bird Taxi. So anyway, we thought it was so funny. We decided, it's just a laugh. We will. And we called him Taxi. And we had him for like about a year and a half, and he wasn't talking at all. And my partner was mocking me, Alex, my son's father. He was mocking me, saying, there you go, buying a parrot, throwing all your money down the drain, and he won't even say a word.
Wouldn't you typically you went and bought a non-talking parrot?
Yeah, and because he was a year old as well, he wasn't hand tame, and he was kind of a bit aggressive, you know what I mean? The only one he liked later on was my daughter. He liked her, he allowed her to handle him. He liked us all, but he allowed her to handle him.
But back in the day, you resolved, I suppose, well, if I do nothing else in life, I'm going to teach this parrot to talk.
Yes, I did. And I was there one morning, and the next thing I heard, hello, and I had him over a year, so they had to eat their words because he started saying everything. And of course, then my daughter told me a couple of years later, he was effing and blinding, right? And she told me she was teaching him, he was effing and blinding, and he could say the F word in about 10 different ways. He could put it into 10 different, sentences kind of thing.
Was he? Did he curse at you then, yeah?
No, he just said it away to himself. He'd be like, F off and F you and F it and, F sake. And, he could say it in about 10 different ways.
Did he have a Cork accent?
He had the accent then of whoever he was copying. Like he could say a thing in my voice. He could say, Victor, my partner, God love us, he died. He got a heart transplant and he died, but he'd talk in his voice and he used to talk in my son's voice, and he had a squeakier one then for my daughter, you see, they're copying, they're not learning to speak, they're copying a sound. So whatever sound, like if you say it one way and I say it a different way, he could say the same word in my voice and your voice. You know what I mean? Because he's mimicking.
I know it's him. Yeah, I mean he isn't. He doesn't know what he's saying. He's just mimicking what other people are saying.
No. Well, no, I don't know all about that because they do say that. But I'll just veer away now for one small bit. But I have to get back to the name, Neil. But anyway, we had a cockatoo as well. You see, I had an aviary and I used to breed birds as well, but I didn't breed parrots. Now I bred budgies, canaries, and all the likes of that, and lovebirds and stuff. But anyhow, we had a white cockatoo as well, a big cockatoo, and they say that they only mimic and they don't know what they're saying. But I bought her and I went all the way to Dublin when he was in the Mater Hospital after getting his heart transplant, and I brought her down from Dublin on the train in a box. And eventually, just him she took to after all my trouble going to get her, and she loved him. And he used to say to her when she'd be up on his shoulder. She was out all the time up on top of him, and I'd come into the room and he'd say, "There's the witch." And she'd say, "Here's the witch." So every time I went in the door, then she learned to say it on her own. So anyway, one time she was there anyway, and we used to, if you went near him or brushed off him or anything, we used to play a game, and you say, Victor's bold, and she'd be up on his shoulder, she'd be, F off! I can't say it right now, okay? And the next thing anyway, she'd prop the wings anyway, the madder she'd F off! And she was there anyway one day, and I said...
She understood what F off meant, alright.
She did, and then one day I said back to her, I said, F off, and she goes, F you too. Now where did she get that? where we didn't know where she got that. My partner was very funny, and he nearly had a heart attack all over again from laughing because she was up in the she FU2, and we did not know where she got it. One night she was on there was a film on the TV, and we used to have to cover her cage at night because she'd screech if we didn't cover her, so we covered her, and there was a film on the TV. And there was a romantic scene, and the girl goes, "Oh, George!" And the next thing, the girl goes inside the cage, "Oh, George!" And she only heard it the one time, like, you have to say it several times over and over, and they eventually copy it. But she just said that in front of me. But anyhow, getting back to Taxi with the name. My son, anyway, we decided to call him Taxi. But a few years later, I was living up in Balmoral Terrace, up by the back of the grotto on Harrington Square. And Victor was after having a transplant by then, and we were there one day, and my daughter was cleaning out the cage, and she forgot to put the grips back on because the door of the cage used to open up and down, and he learned to open it and let himself out, like, so you have to put these grips on, and I put the grips on, but anyway she forgot to put the grips on, and he escaped. And 3 days he was missing, and we were broken hearted. We put ads all over the shops and the.
Oh, he even got out of the house.
Oh, well, you see, I had a kind of a back porch, and it was out there. I used to have him in the day, you know. We actually built it on for the birds.
So he flew away.
And he did. We had a little mesh door then, so that the air and everything could get in. It was outside the house now, like it was just built there, especially for the birds. And the door must have been ajar, you know. It must have been closed either, and he got out anyhow. So he was missing 3 days. So eventually, anyway, I was out putting ads up everywhere, and this woman came down to the door one evening, and she said her son worked in the chipper up by the barracks. And he saw a strange bird up in the tree in the barracks, and she wondered, was it him? And I went up. We went up later on that evening and looked, and there was a soldier going up a ladder up the tree, and he was nearly up by him. So I called, and I said, no, don't. And I was going to say, don't go, because he'd fly away, you see?
Yeah.
So the next thing, anyhow, with that, didn't he fly away? Right, but you see, they had the searchlights on there inside the wall of the barracks, right?
The army were searching for him.
Right? Yeah, and anyway, the next thing, anyway, he flew away. So all I had in my mind was, oh, he's going to go now, and he got lost. At least he was only up the road from the house, which was surprising. He hadn't gone very far in 3 days, like, he stayed in the area, like. So anyhow, I was saying, oh, jeez, he's going to fly away now and he loses his bearings. So I started running down the road, and so that he wouldn't, you know, so he'd know I was there. I was taxi,
F off.
And there was these two guys standing at the pub door, outside the pub door, having a smoke, up by the barracks, down below the barracks there, that pub. And the next thing I thought, Jesus, girl, you won't get a taxi up there at all. He didn't know why I was calling taxi up in the sky for.
This demented woman running down the street shouting taxi.
I'd say he was probably pointing me out for years, but then Victor died. Then eventually, and Taxi never again spoke.
My
He
God,
never
really?
again spoke. No.
And how long is Victor dead?
He's dead now 15 years. He'll be 16 years in January.
Ah.
Yeah.
So
And,
on his death then, Taxi just went silent.
Yes. Never again spoke, never cursed, never anything. And he used to whistle the lonesome boatman from start to finish, because Victor was a fabulous whistler, and he taught him it, and he was always whistling it for him. And Neighbours, he used to whistle Neighbours.
Really?
And yeah, the whole bit of the lonesome boatman was eerie, because I used to put him out in the front up on top of the wheelie bin. And in the day now, like for the summertime, in spring and what have you, I'd put him out there up on top of the wheelie bin, you know, and he'd be out there happy out, and he'd be whistling the lonesome boatman, and people up and down the street just be saying, you know, they'd look, and then they realised it's the bird, you know, whistling like, you know, and he was. But
I'm going to have a heart attack.
he'd still dance away from side to side if you sing Neighbours to him.
Still to this day, he'll still do a bit of a jig.
Yeah, my niece Nicola, she comes down, and every time when she's going away, he goes over to the side of the cage, and he starts going, waiting for her to sing. And I try, he won't talk now, but he does do a little trick when he wants something, and he might do it. I try and see now there when he do it. I just ask if you give him something, if he wants it, but I gave him something to eat now a while ago, he mightn't do it. Do you want this, Taxi? Do you want this? What you say first? Do you want it? What you say? Oh, I'm not grabbing it. No, he
Isn't that sad, though? He hasn't spoken in 15 years. Yeah, how old is he now?
He's 32. He was 32 since August.
And, do African greys live a long life?
Between 50 and 70, I think, is their average. I read that before.
So he could live longer than 70 then?
They can. That's the expected. But in captivity they live longer than they would in the wild, because obviously something would come along and catch them in the wild. You know what I mean?
I know.
But
so there's no chance of getting a bird whisperer or anything, or someone maybe to coax him to talk again. No,
I don't think so. I don't, and they're very much into their own people who they know and trust and stuff. You know.
So without Victor was the love of his life then.
Oh, he was. Well, no, my daughter. No, actually, my daughter was. But you see, what happened was then my daughter grew up and she left home, and then I went out working then, and Victor was at home all the time after getting his transplant. You see. So he was there all the time. So I'd say,
yeah.
The fact
that was his attachment, and poor old Taxi has a broken heart.
Oh yeah, and they do say that, sometimes, we say if a person now had a parrot, and if they, it can even happen with lovebirds. And if we just say they die, or they give them away or something, we just say they die, the bird can die too. The bird could just die, just give up over the person if they had nobody else. You know what I mean?
Happens with dogs as well.
It can, yeah.
That's an amazing story. And it's all got. Did you know Bimbo the monkey at all? No.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, the kids, we used to stand there looking at him, and the boys used to come along and upset him.
Right,
yeah. We used to go up there.
He wasn't for sale, old Bimbo. He was part of the family.
He was, of course, and that was the highlight of our day. Going walking into town.
So no treat in the world now would convince Alex Taxi to say F off or F you too.
I don't know. No treat would anyway, but I don't know, I've tried everything and no.
And have you actually said F you to him?
I have.
And he hasn't gone? He's not taking the bait?
Oh, you have, and I've said it and meant it too. Sometimes because he wasn't hand tame, you see, the cockatoo I had was hand tame. I finished rearing her myself. Because they knew me and they knew I could feed her. I finished hand rearing her myself. She wasn't parent reared at all. She was very tame altogether. But when Victor died, I had to. She was only 2, and 2 in a parrot is like 2 in a human. It's not like a dog now, where it would be 14.
Yeah.
So when Victor died, I had to go out and work more full time because I could only work part time when he was sick, because he was in and out of hospital all the time.
I know.
And I could only work part time. I wasn't able to work full time, so I had to go and work full time. Then when Victor passed away, and I still had Alex going to school and everything, and I had to work full time, and I couldn't take care of Snowy. That was the cockatoo, and so I decided I'd have to sell her. So I was after.
Do cockatoos talk?
Oh yeah, she talked. Oh yeah, she was the one now who was saying, "Oh George," when the movie was on, when I was saying about that they say they don't know what they're saying, and she said, "And if you too, you know what I mean?" Yeah. Oh yeah. But I had to sell her eventually. But what I did was I didn't want to part with her. Just put an ad in the paper and part with her. So this man came and he wanted to buy him for his son. Now his son was about 17. I wouldn't sell to a young child, but the son was about 17. So I said I made a deal with them, and I said I'd sell the bird was worth over £1,000 pounds at the time. So I said I'd sell euro. It was euro, and I said I'd sell her for 500, provided he'd come up every night for a month, and I'd see how the bird would get on with him, and that he'd play with her and blah, blah, blah.
And did he do that?
And he did that.
Fair
and
play.
I told him, because I couldn't just let her go without her knowing a person properly. So she was mad about him, and she was actually as well, like I say, I bought her for me, and to Victor she liked, and she favoured the men, my son as well, she favoured the men really in the house, so I knew she'd go for a guy, so she did, and she was mad about him, so I was happy then to leave her go.
Yeah, that was a good pick, that was a good choice. Yeah. But anyway, sure, Taxi's got a long life ahead of him, so.
He has, he'll outgrow me.
No, live us all the way he's gone. Amazing. Well, if in the future he decides to start talking again, come back to me and let us know, because everyone would be keen to hear, because it's a very funny story, but there's a sad tinge to it as well, that Victor died and Taxi stopped talking.
Stop talking,
Breda, listen, it's lovely talking to you. Thanks so much. Great story.
Take care, Neil. Take care. Neil. Take care. Neil.